Good evening. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Matt. So we're going to be talking about how to use custom software to solve common procurement challenges. So a bit quickly on myself, I work with PlantSnap to support procurement teams and procurement leaders to leverage PlantSnap's low-code software to build customizable software solutions to solve challenges they may be facing. But we'll talk a bit more about that later. Kicking off. So today's agenda, we've got quite a lot of stuff to run through today. A lot of it's going to be focusing on, problems that procurement teams face and what options you have available. So I'll be doing a lot of talking about custom software, but I'll also be talking about various other options as well, because it's not the only solution out there. I've also got a couple of demos that I can show you. So a solution around contract management and a solution around tender and supplier management as well. So hopefully that sounds good. Brilliant. So who's today's webinar for? So we've got three different groups that we've tailored the content today. The first being early stage procurement teams. So if you're in a team that may be a year to 2 years old, you'll probably be in the process of defining all the processes to help scale your procurement team to help deliver as much value to the organization. People that we speak to in sort of this area, we normally see that the processes are just being put in place. Maybe there's a little bits of software that you may have inherited that are either really old, have just got on board. Normally though, we tend to see that these teams are best friends with Microsoft Excel and using emails to track every bit of communication between stakeholders and suppliers. The next group is around the more mature procurement team. So, a bit more of a developed structure. You've probably got people within your team that are handling different spend categories. You've got defined processes in place. You've probably got a lot of software. Some of it may be better than others. Some of it may communicate to others. It may not. And then the final group will be procurement consultants. So if there's anyone here who consults to organizations, then some of the content is for you. Cool. So what I'll do just to set the scene is I'll kick off with this. I'm not too sure if anyone on this call has come across this procurement maturity model. The reason for talking about this is it has a direct correlation with how organizations then bring on new technology to help support their procurement teams at different stages. So stage one, tactical and operational, that's when teams are, probably just buying goods and services. There's not really a strategy in place behind the purchases. It's a purely, a tactical and operational purchasing structure. Normally the purchasing may be done by employees within the organization, and, it's heavily reliant on the finance team to manage the budgets, not to ask questions around pricing, service levels, and quality and things like that. So normally at this stage, we tend to see that organizations may have a ERP in place with basic spend analytics, but other than that, not too much. It'll be heavily manual work for the people within the team. Stage two, what they call sourcing mastery. And this is when organizations sort of deviate and start to capture value from the purchase goods and services that they go through. They normally see that organizations start hiring more procurement professionals to support purchasing, manage the contracts, oversee contract negotiations. And it's all about thinking about how business spend is actually an opportunity to create value for the organization. At this stage, as I've put my nice little custom annotation on, it becomes quite clear that technology is needed within the organization to scale more wins here. So as organizations are running more sourcing events, as more contracts are being won and managed, to help manage all the manual tasks that will come from this, that's when we start to see organizations bring in contract management solutions, spend management technology, all of that sort of stuff to streamline processes across sourcing, invoicing, payments, supplier management. Now, stage three, things are way more advanced at this point. The solutions are in place. Organizations at this stage tend to have quite a bit of technology. The processes are all clearly defined. And now they're moving to a position where they're focusing more on category strategy. So how can we create as much value out of each category? And at this point, we tend to see that organizations are using more things like RFP management solutions on top of everything else. Stage 4, the final stage, you've captured the maximum value out of each of the categories within your organization. Procurement and sourcing leaders are working really closely as partners within the organization. You're helping stakeholders not just get the most value out of the purchases and ongoing supplier relationships, but also identifying, new opportunities to drive business innovation in partnership with your suppliers. So what a lot of organizations, they use this to help define sort of where they are in the stage, and that can help you focus on what's the next thing we need to solve. But the main thing with this procurement maturity model is it's all about refining 3 elements. 1's people, 2's the processes, and 3's technology. Now, all 3 of those need to be refined constantly, and at the different stages, you're refining different elements of each, but they always work hand in hand. So today, we're going to be talking about the technology and the problems that can face, and where technology can help solve them. So through talking to our prospects, to our customers, through analysing many surveys and reports, the 4 most common challenges that we see constantly pop up are these. And there are other challenges 100% that procurement teams face. Some of them will fit within these 4. Lack of transparency is probably one of the key ones. And we tend to see this more with organizations at stage 1 or 2 of that maturity model. Processes haven't been put in place, or they have been put in place, and maybe some stakeholders within the organization or some of your team, they're just not quite following them as well as they should be, and deviating off that path. But a lot of the time we tend to see that the main thing that stops this lack of transparency within the organization or with your stakeholders is there's nothing in place to help automate that process. Tracking the emails, making sure everything's stored in one place. This is a huge problem we see with a lot of organizations. Supplier and risk management. I mean, there's 2 folds to this. One area is your suppliers. Are they could they cause damage to your business? Maybe they're not financially stable. Are there any cases of fraud or corruption? And on the other side of it, there's the management of the suppliers. So, I mean, the more efficiently you can manage your suppliers, the better you can negotiate with them, and the quicker you can deliver your projects. Sustainability has become more and more of a focus for organizations. And I suppose one of the problems here is how can procurement help? Oh, there we go. Skip forward a few slides. How can procurement actually help drive a positive move in sustainability? Now, the main thing here is without any form of data being collected within organizations, it's really hard to make a difference with sustainability. Because you have no information on what are the more greener alternatives. Now, the most common problem we see, and it'll be interesting in a minute to see what everyone on the call sees as more of a priority or a bigger problem they're facing at the moment, but we tend to talk more about decentralized data in systems. Now, from stages 1 to 4, you've got systems in place, different people there we go, Frank's getting involved. Different people at different times are getting involved to bring on new bits of software, and it's not connecting to each other. The data is in limbo between systems, and it creates incredibly manual tasks for your teams to make sure contracts are appearing in system 1, 2, 3 while appearing in your ERP and so on. So this is what we're going to be talking about today against the 3 different solutions. So I suppose to kick off, I'm just going to launch a poll. It'd be great to see what everyone on the call sees as the bigger problem out of these 4. So hopefully that should be popping up on your screen now, or a notification for a poll to kick off. These bars are going all over the place. Fantastic to see. A few more seconds. Right. We've got a draw. Send that there. Really interesting to see. So, I mean, we're not too off with what we're talking to people about, which is great to see. But look, decentralized data and systems seems to be up there with supplier and risk management, which is, definitely not a surprise, because, the supplier and risk management, I mean, one, managing suppliers can be a hugely manual task. We've actually also seen people do this over various systems, and you've got your contracts in one place, you've got all your agreed prices in another, and then you've got your invoices housed in your ERP elsewhere, you know, and then matching all of them up can be, you know, a hugely manual task. You know, we've spoken to people where people have been hired to do a specific role within the organization, and then spending 40 to 50% of their time doing manual tasks to make sure they can actually spend the rest of their week doing the job they were hired for. Brilliant. Cool. So brilliant. So I'll show you a bit about the solutions we'll be talking about today. Now, the solutions we're going to be talking about are all around basically taking manual tasks from your team and automating them, getting your team to either own them to some varying degree, but to free up their time to do other things. So, you know, to help improve things like productivity, and reduce the number of manual errors, which also, you know, delay projects, add more work onto the teams. And then probably one of the key ones being, you know, providing more visibility of what's happening within the organization. So we'll talk a bit about process automation and RPA as a solution. We'll be talking about cloud-based, you know, SaaS procurement platforms, which I imagine are probably the most commonly known within the audience on today's webinar, and then custom software built by low-code. So I'll give you a nice comparison between the three. They've all got their pros and cons, you know, depending on what people are looking to do. You know, some are better suited than others. So to start, we'll start with process automation. One of our partners, UiPath, you know, they're one of the leading organizations globally for process automation. And the mission for them is to take the robotic jobs that you hire people to do and actually build robots to do the same thing. You know, and it should free up them to do other things, which is fantastic. So, you know, it's basically heavily utilizing data sets and data sheets to build, you know, streamline workflows of data. What this allows you to do as a team is it can heavily reduce things like manual tasks. So if you're sending data from one place to another, you know, normally the process would be get the old-fashioned Excel spreadsheet out, make sure everything's matched up. Yep, line A is correct, and so on, and rinse and repeat, and automatically push that data to where it needs to be. The main perks of this is, you know, it obviously improves accuracy when handling large volumes of data. You can set the workflows to be really strict, and every time any data is pulled, pushed, and put somewhere else, you know, there's an audit trail being created. Now, generally, we see organizations maybe later stage 2 on that maturity model, to stage 3 to stage 4, really utilize process automation. Some of the negatives can be that, you know, there's friction from your employee base. You know, sometimes we see, you know, organizations have hired people to do specific jobs, and, you know, this can make those jobs redundant. Also, the initial investment cost can be a lot higher than some of the other options we'll be talking about today, and you will need to be hiring, you know, people with that skill set to be able to help manage the RPA and, you know, the data workflows. But with regards to the problems we're talking about today, it's a really effective way of solving some of them. With the lack of transparency, you know, you're tracking all of that data. The whole point of this is to make as much data as transparent as possible, so you can make more decisions. The other side of it is sustainability. So through saving time, through reducing your manual tasks, you know, you can, you're definitely having a sustainable impact on the organization, you know, whether that's less manual tasks of people actually having to do things. And then the main one being decentralized data and systems. So, you know, the main perk of these RPA solutions is, you know, how quickly you can get data from your various systems and get them to upload and update, you know, maybe things like reports. I mean, we've got here an example from one of their clients, Hudson Bay. You know, every day 15 executive reports are validated daily, you know, so the value that adds to be able to then make quick decisions, you know, is, you know, invaluable. The next option, the one that most likely is more common for everyone in the call today, is, you know, cloud native procurement platforms, or SaaS. So if anyone's not familiar with what SaaS is, you know, software as a service. It's software that you can access via your internet browser versus actually having to download something onto your desktop. And, you know, the nice thing of it, there's a lot of choice. I did a quick search last week on software advice, and you're straight away 160 results of various procurement software that, you today could actually get involved in. They help demo this in a nice way. We can see all the reviews. Now, the main perk of this is these bits of software have been developed to solve specific problems, and they will do so really, really well. Normally, you also see they'll have some additional extras to try and cover some more problems to help you as the end user reduce the amount of software that you use. But the main thing is, like, there's some of the examples we can see on the screen here around shipping and inventory management solutions, based on this company here, that Shipping Easy are obviously the better choice, and the reviews back that. And because they're solving specific problems, they can bring the cost down. So, compared to RPA, normally with cloud native platforms, you can be looking at anywhere between $120 to $400 per user, which can be incredibly more cost effective depending on the size of your team. Also, things like maintenance, it's handled by the supplier. That's not something that you have to worry about unless they don't have very good maintenance. So if in case do worry, hopefully they shouldn't. And accessibility, you can log in anywhere. Some of the negatives of this, though, security is not owned by your own IT team. If you're looking to, as you're going through that maturity model and your organization changes, your needs can change. Your the software that you need access to can change. Now, one of the negatives that can be seen with SaaS platforms out there today is, if you want to get something custom built or changed, that's not normally something that you can get access to. So at that point, you then have to go back to the drawing board, find something else. Can it integrate with this platform we've already got already? And obviously, data is incredibly important for you. It's incredibly important to these suppliers as well. So we've seen countless times where data's been held with a bit of software. It's not in the same format as something else. So again, it comes back to then creating that manual task of getting someone to actually manually transfer data from A to B to C, make sure it's all linked and so on. So. But it does solve the problems, which is great. So there are software solutions out there that, their whole aim is to improve lack of transparency. So manage the workflows of getting suppliers on board, and making sure that, all the interactions with those suppliers are tracked. The contracts are all managed and stored in a place where it's really easily accessible. With supplier and risk management, there are some really, really good software solutions like Credit Safe and so on to help manage the risk of, the backgrounds of those suppliers. Are they financially stable? Have they had any issues in the past, and so on? What they don't solve, though, is things like sustainability and decentralized data. What we can see is the more data solutions you have in place, the more you're, making a chaotic, uncentralized data and system network where things may not want to connect to each other and so on. So it's definitely one thing to bear in mind. The final option is the main thing I'll be demoing today, which is custom software through low code. Now, if you're not familiar with what low code is has been around for a good few years now, and the aim of low code is to allow really quick software development, but without the need to know how or have any knowledge of coding. So as long as you're somewhat tech savvy, familiar with Excel spreadsheets and so on, you have the ability to, actually build and manage software. So what PlantSnap does is exactly that. We have a platform that allows organizations to build custom software based on workflows that they've set, and they end up owning that software, which is fantastic. A lot of low-code providers, they also do offer support, so that to help you get started with your platform and do the initial build, and then these work with you on building that initial platform where they've got a team in place to help develop this software, and then help that go live, and then hand over to your IT and procurement teams to own and run going forward, which has some huge positive impacts. So again, similar to the RPA and the SaaS solutions, you can build an actual system that solves those specific problems. So, and a lot of the time what we see, it's all about reducing manual tasks, bringing all that data into one place, or building a platform that, is almost, makes visibility of what you're doing and what your organization's doing even easier. It will help with things like audit trails, whether that's, contract management audit trails, approval process audit trails, anything that's done within these platforms that you end up building, every single step is tracked. The nice thing about low code is, unlike normal software development where you may get a dev team on board to build a platform like this, whether it's a contract management solution or a vendor management solution, for example, normally you would be quoted 9 to 12 months plus to get the full build live. There'll be a period of time, a few months of drafting out what that platform's going to look like. Then there's the next 6 months of building, reviewing, rebuilding, and repeat until, after 12 months, you've got a really nice platform that's custom built for you. Low code's whole aim is to actually reduce that time frame. So a lot of the time, the people we end up working with, we go from the idea that the procurement directors come up with to 2 months later, a completely live platform that's completely integrated with their ERP and their contract management system, pulling data seamlessly. And you've got a working bit of software that's completely custom to your organization, completely based off your workflows. And the nice thing about that is, whereas RPA, you may get a bit of friction because it's a completely new process that someone's got to learn. With this, it can be completely based off the steps that your teams are already taking. If they're sending a contract to a certain system and making sure that certain fields are updated in that system, well, this is where, building something with low code can do that automatically. All they've got to do is make sure they hit the button, upload the correct file, and, they've then got time to do something else. Like with everything, though, there are negatives, and some see these as negatives, some may see these as positives, depending on the size of the organization. But with SaaS, where you've got something off the shelf ready that you can see, with something like a low-code built platform, you need to have an idea of what you want. So you need to know that workflow that you want to improve. So maybe it's a manual task that certain employees have to do specific things. You need to know that inside and out, because that will be needed to build the platform. And that leads into the second potential negative, where it's, this isn't an off-the-shelf solution. It never will be. There is that building period where it's all about analyzing, understanding the problem. That normally takes a week. Building the first draft of it, that takes a couple of weeks, and then reviewing that over the next month until it's ready to go live. And some may see this as a negative as well, but at the end of the day, once this platform is built, the responsibility lies with procurement teams and IT teams. So in the end, your team will own this software. You'll be able to update it. You'll be able to ask, obviously, support to build to update this software if you need it. But at the end of the day, that's kind of your decisions to make. So unlike SaaS, where they'll be constantly updating their software based on what they see with their customers. So there are the three options. Now what I was going to do is show you a couple of examples of some software that's been developed using PlantSnap. The first one was a project worked with KPMG, and it was all about contract management. So I'll just pull that onto the screen now, make sure that's all loaded up. So the context behind this project was T-Mobile. They had 7 different legacy contract management applications, a couple newer than others, some quite old. And the idea was to aggregate all of these into one solution where they can bring all their old contracts into place, but also redesign the approval process. So thanks to IFRS 16 within the leasing space, they had to make sure that people were manually signing off on contracts versus automatically doing so. So what I'm just going to do is do this across here. So the base of this system, the initial build of this system, was built by a couple of low-code engineers. It took, to get to a certain stage, it took about 5 days. Now, there's been a bit more work that's been put into it, but the nice thing is it can really emphasize the time at which you can turn around something that's somewhat branded to your organization, but with all complete working workflows that are completely fitted to their specific needs. So here it's focusing on the leasing element of T-Mobile. There's one element where there was a use of OCR to look at the old contracts, read them and make sure that they were populated into the system. But then the second element was to basically help them manage new contracts, create new contracts, and have workflows so that a lot of it was automatically done. So when someone created a contract, the people that needed to approve it were notified, emailed. Every bit of that step was had an audit trail. When people were signing the contracts, again, it was tracking all of these numbers. But the really cool thing in here is that the contract templates are already put in place. So as and when the company wants to add new contracts to help organize and get signed off and so on, there's a template builder within this application. which they can access via these different entities. And then it creates a form based on which contract type they fill in. And then depending on the how they fill it out, this then generates a contract pre-populated with all the information, which I've got an example here somewhere. See if I can find that. Oh, it's disappeared. Fantastic. Hang on. See if I can download it again, shall we? And once they fill in the actual forms, the point being that the contract is then generated and created at the end of it. So let's just see if I can get that downloaded now. Here we go. Now this is obviously for the Romanian part of T-Mobile. But here we go. We've got things like IBAN numbers, all pre-populated based on the contract that they wanted to fill out. So this saved a huge amount of time when creating these contracts, and it meant that loads of people could access this, create the contract, send it, and then there was a status bar to basically mention when contracts were either coming up for renewal, they've gone live, they've been drafted, they've been accepted, they've been rejected, and so on. So that was the first example I wanted to give you an example of. Now, like I say, the one thing to emphasize, this was custom built based on the workflow that they were working on. So again, this is not an off-the-shelf product, but the whole point is that this can be replicated, and tailored to whatever processes people are looking to achieve. So if there's a need that you've got around contract management, that's something where it's quite easy just to have a conversation around and see how either something like this could be adapted or, start from the ground up. The process of getting to something like this, it's a really quick process, which is great. Brilliant. So that was the contract management piece. If there are any questions, like I say, I'll answer them at the end of this webinar, but feel free to chuck them in the Q&A. I can see there's already a few that's popped up, which is fantastic. So I'll make sure I'll get to those at the end of this webinar. The next piece to talk about is more around supplier management. So we work with a prospecting client on this to sort the initial build of this, and the story behind this was they're in the aviation space and they have to go out to tender and get multiple submissions from multiple different line items, and it can be a really complex thing to look at, and they get multiple bits of data back, and it's all about how they analyze it. Then the scenario they were in, they were using Excel. They would receive the submissions back from their suppliers, and they would take each line item, allocate it to put it in an Excel spreadsheet, and then line by line they can go through and go, okay, well this costs more than this, and then they can provide the feedback. So let me just pull this one up. Again, this is one low-code developer. Like I said, this is not the final build of this, but this is what one low-code developer with the procurement team were able to achieve in 5 days. So what we're looking at here, we're logged in as the procurement manager, the procurement leader in this scenario, and this is just to quickly be able to create tenders to invite their suppliers to. So here we've got 4 different tenders that are live at the moment. One for L&D modules for developers, 160 licenses, one to get the costing for 3 of their planes being looked after at certain airports in the UK, a company-wide refresh, and then online advertisement for their marketing department. Now, the initial build for this, what we wanted to be able to achieve was make sure that, one, they could receive requests from different functions within the organizations, be able to quickly add those services to a portal so that I can define what the service is that we're looking for with the description, any variation of what those services are. So if the supplier wants to give different costings for different examples, we needed different currencies to be supplied by the actual suppliers. So they wanted for USD, GBP and euros. And we needed to be able to see documents of the partners and have that all stored. So when a supplier is invited to this portal, the first thing they do when they create their account is they have to upload all their certification and insurance documents to make sure that compliance box is ticked. Now, they can't actually create an account without having any of those things up to date, which is great. So as soon as the partners and suppliers are actually given access to the portal, you've got that compliance box ticked, that we've got all the documentation sorted for them, and we can see here it's stored in quite a basic format in this scenario, but we've got all their insurance, their participation data document, and their insurance policies and so on. So down the line, there was plans to put in things like expiry dates and things like that, so that you would get notified internally, okay, well, certain documents and certain contracts are expiring, give you 3 months to sort it out. It would also notify the suppliers team that, if their compliance documentation's getting out of date, that they need to sort it. So what we can do here, we'll jump into a couple of these just to kind of show some of the basic views that we've put in place. Now, the aim of this was to be able to make a decision quicker based on costing on certain suppliers. So a lot of these have got multiple line items, and before, like I say, there was hours spent putting them into Excel spreadsheets, analyzing the data, highlighting green is good, red is bad, so it was all to speed up that process, which was taking ages. In their scenario, they were also creating tenders very, very frequently. So for some companies where that may be happening once a month, once a quarter, or at the end of the financial year going into the new one, you may not be doing this so frequently, but in this scenario, it was quite a frequent scenario. So here we've got a company-wide tech refresh. We're looking for certain IT laptops and additional items. We can see here we've got 6 offers from different suppliers in pound sterling. Now, when the supplier comes in, they can see this list of requests. They can find the one that's relevant for them, and they can see the supporting document requesting for tender with all the additional information, so they can make sure they're providing everything. What they then do is when they start a submission, they go through a place where they'll fill in costs. So we've got all of our submitters here with their supporting documents from different IT supplier organizations, and we've really thought out the names here for this example. And as the procurement manager, it's quite easy for me to just jump in and see their offer against each line item. So we've got here 160 Dell XPSs, 200 Dell Inspirons, some MacBooks, looks like some different mice and keyboards and so on. And I can see the prices that they've allocated here in Great British pounds. And in the last view, we also saw that their supporting document. So great, I can check that out. What we've got behind the scenes here as part of the request was to put a really basic scoring in place. So in this scenario, it was mainly scored on price. So depending on the scoring system that the procurement team have put in place behind the scenes, and what the supplier then submits, it then automatically gives them a score. And as we can see here, the lowest score, which is better, is towards the top. So that's one way to help sort of quickly make an assessment. Okay, well, I know that these top 3 are the more affordable options. The second view was to sort of help mimic the Excel view that their team were using frequently. So there's one thing of just saying, okay, well, here's a brand new system, it does it completely differently. But we wanted to make sure that the pickup speed was a lot quicker. So not only do they have that view to help analyze things, but they also have a view that sort of mimics what they were creating in Excel, but it does it automatically instantly. So as soon as there's a submission, these fields are entered. So we've got the different suppliers at the top, as you can see here, with the line items on the left. And within a second, I can already tell you who's given me the better prices out of the 6 suppliers that we've got on offer. Now I'm in a position where I can go back, I can talk to them about it, I can start beginning my negotiation, move them to the next stage, or I could just give them feedback that you're out of the ballpark completely. The quality looks great, but does it justify the additional cost? So yeah, like I say, the point here was to be able to help speed up that process of making the decision. Some other examples here. So we've got, let's maybe go for a slightly more complex looking one with lots more line items. So we've got a few more here. And this is around planes being stored at various airport locations. There's a lot of data here. Core, blimey, it hurts the eyes slightly. And again, this is where that second view, I can see why they wanted it so much, because it then makes the analysis of these different prices. And obviously I don't know planes very well at all, but you know, the person who wanted this did. You can then quickly see, okay, well, you know, option one is a lot better, but quickly we can see they have got some things that are a lot more expensive, way more expensive, in fact. So maybe we can push back and negotiate these specific areas. Brilliant. So, and then also there's a dashboard behind the scenes that tracks, and this is a very basic dashboard, but you can get really, really creative with the data you're pulling through. So whatever data is actually housed within your platform, you know, there are dashboards that you can create from this. The example actually being the contract management one I showed you earlier. You know, the dashboard behind the scenes there are incredibly complex. Now, the final thing on this, the point being that obviously you may have all your suppliers set up, you may have your needs set up already, but that's not always the case. Ad hoc things always pop up. So with here, it was made really easily to be able to add either new functions. We've got a list of services here. The plan was obviously to categorize all of these as well, but it was really quite a straightforward process to get new services added in when different functions are looking for new services. So like I said, that was the contract management system. You know, that build was a 5-day-old build. Normally these projects would get finished within about 2 months and working live and integrated with all your solutions. Now, following the same format we have with the others, you know, what we like to think with low code is it combines a bit of both of those solutions that we've spoken about with RPA processing, as well as you know, the SaaS products. So you know, we're copying actually a lot of the lack of transparency elements of both. You know, it's all about using processes to make sure that people are either getting notified about things that are happening with your suppliers, with your contracts and so on. You know, that can all be automated completely to make sure that, you know, the people that need to see that information see it at a click of a button, or automatically with dates being set and so on. You can integrate these solutions with all sorts of other solutions. So one of the things we tend to see is a really good combination is utilizing SaaS products that you've already got, and then building a low-code platform that incorporates all of them. So if you've got a contract management system in place, fantastic. We'll use the data from that to create dashboards and reports and, you know, buttons to click to help make sure that, you know, that those contract management systems are being pushed to your ERP. They're being re-signed by your suppliers. They're being, you know, confirmed by your stakeholders. And you can also integrate them with, you know, things like credit safe. You know, there's pretty much no limit to what you can integrate with these platforms, as long as they've got API links, which most of these SaaS software solutions have. Fantastic. With sustainability, you know, it's doing similar sort of things that the RPA was doing, but maybe making it a bit more user friendly for your current team. You know, it's about taking what your current team are doing, turning that process into a more automatic process to save them time to be able to focus on more strategic elements, you know, later down that, you know, that procurement maturity line. And, you know, the big one being decentralized data. Like I say, like if you've got, it doesn't matter if you've got 2, 3, 5, 7 bits of software, if you're using all 7 and you're having to do manual tasks between them, you know, that's normally one of the common problems we have to solve with low code. It's building something that's, you know, one login and it helps manage all the other 7. It pulls the data in, it pushes the data out all automatically, you know, to give you a bit of peace of mind that when that new contract's signed, it's in all the places it needs to be. Now, if anyone's interested in starting the journey with us or with low code, it's a really straightforward process. Stage 1 is just to discuss the requirements with us and some engineers. We then start stage 2, which is delivering the proof of concept. So we scope out the concept and we build an actual working model. This normally takes between a week to 2 weeks max. And that means we can get as much feedback from you really quickly on, you know, what you're looking to build, you know, what that dream product is. Stage 3 is then to make sure that integrates with all your IT infrastructure. So with these products, generally the IT team are really heavily involved, which is can be a really fantastic thing for an organization, because you're bridging the gap between your procurement function and making sure you've got access to the support and everything you need with that platform. And then stage 4 is to go live. Comparing this to the other 2 solutions, they all differ. So RPA is an option. You know, that's going to take a lot longer to build and implement. you're going to need to allocate a lot more time, because you're going to have to understand all the data flows. You have to build all of those out, so sometimes those projects can take 6 to 7 months. SaaS on the other end, they've got the product already made. It's already there. It's, see the features, be sold on the features, and then implement. And normally your implementation time is probably around 1 to 2 months anyway. The idea with low code is it's to try and mimic that delivery, that implementation time of SaaS. So, I think the average build time at the moment for our clients is around 46 days. And that's from stage 1, having that first discussion, to stage 4, going completely live with something that's real. So ideally you're getting something just as quickly, but it's completely tailored to that workflow that you're so used to doing with your team. Cool. So 44 minutes in, I've managed to follow my time cues pretty smoothly there. So we've now got a 15-minute Q&A section. So please fire your questions in the chat, and I'll try and answer all of those as quickly as possible. Here we go. Okay, brilliant. We've got some things on cost, on delivery times. Okay, brilliant. So yeah, okay, can I answer your questions first? So addressing cost for procurement, I can give costs for all the different options as well. So normally with SaaS, there's normally a model with SaaS where it's it's normally a per user pricing. So depending on the size of your organization, it can be quite a really cost-effective route. So we've seen different services being offered from, $120 a month per user to, I think, some of the more expensive being like $450 per month per user. As that cost scales, obviously you get better prices. With what we've offered with low codes, and we've gone through a slightly different model where it's a per application cost. So one procurement bit of software, you can grow it over time as much as you want. The main thing that probably impacts that cost is how much you need to lean on us to help build it. So some organizations really want us to help build and kick off the project and help maintain and develop it with them. Some organizations really like just to own it themselves, learn the do the academy and learn how to use low code and build it themselves. So probably in comparison, the projects we work on range between 21 and 90,000 pounds. To compare that to custom software, where if you get a development team, you could be looking at $250,000 plus. So that was one of the other things we really wanted to tackle, was bring that cost massively down. You may be looking at similar sort of costs for RPA solutions as well. So like I say, it depends on the project, but we see the price range between 21 and 90,000. 90,000 being if you really need a lot of work from the internal team, that's getting developer support to help build all that. So pretty much drives most of that cost. So solutions take 5 days to a week. Look, so with us building the POC, the proof of concept, we can normally deliver these solutions as in the actual, the basic build to demonstrate what it's like the ones I've shown you today. That can take up to 5 days. The aim being, we want to be able to get that into your hands to be able to play around with and go, actually, this is what I was picturing. This is not what I was picturing. Actually, we've missed the point here. And then it's okay, let's reevaluate and build it. To get something to a place where it's ready to go live, we're expecting that to be about 45 days on average. That's what we tend to see. And that's taking into account that initial couple of hours to scope out what the project is, a couple of weeks to get the first build to play around with. And then it's just building on top of that and, rebuilding it to make sure it works. And we do like to normally allocate a time to make sure we can integrate with your platforms, because it really depends on who we can get access to make sure, if we're connecting up to your Dynamics 365 or NetSuite, for example, we need to make sure we can get access to that, because otherwise we won't be able to. So, but yeah, usually 1 to 2 weeks to build the initial proof of concept, but yeah, a couple of months to get the thing going completely live. I've got here, is this software compatible with others like SAP, Project Primavera, for example? So far, we've been able to build solutions that fit around all of these. So as I mentioned earlier, as long as there's API links to pull data from, we can connect up. And most of these software solutions, they will always have some form of way to deposit data out of them, upload data. So as long as we've got access to those, yeah, that they're completely compatible. How is this different from contract management systems in place today? I think that the main thing is it depends, if you can find a contract management system that is the exact workflow that you're used to doing, fantastic. Like that is probably the best option. What we tend to see sometimes is, there is a point where that doesn't quite do enough for your organization. You've got a specific workflow that you need to follow, and actually getting your team trained up on a new bit of software, that's going to be far too costly. So where this differs is, it'll be building out a similar system to manage your contracts, but like I say, it's completely based on the workflow that you're used to working. We don't want to cause any impact there. It's about, building and making things more efficient. So we'll take the workflow that you're currently using, and then that's what's then used to build your new application. So the shift is not too drastic. We've got here, we've got a bit of a longer one. Small companies do have the same problems in procurement. Data from different sources need to be integrated with ERPs, are built focused on sales and accountancy. Workflows are more fluid, rapid changing. So low code sounds is the right option until the price and learning effort is considered. Would low code become suitable for smaller companies? Depends what we consider as a smaller company. We tend to see quite a large adoption of low code from organizations that have maybe got 250 employees plus. That's where we start to see it happen more frequently. We've seen companies with 50 actually take this in place, but you make a good point about the price and learning effort. So we've tried to tackle the price by making it a per application cost. So the plan is obviously we want all of our companies to scale as much as possible and become hugely successful brands and so on. And the point being there is that a project you may start with us may cost 20 to 30,000 a year, or whatever the application cost is for that. Now you may go from 250 employees to 5,000, and have, instead of 10 licenses, you're going to have 250 licenses as a minimum. Now that cost won't scale is the main point there. So it definitely suits larger organizations because your cost per person drastically drops. But I feel like the speed at which you can get started with these kind of software solutions, the return on investment is really, really quick. Plus it means when you're a smaller organization, you're having to wear more hats. You've got a bit of software that's going to help you do some of those jobs. So, you can focus on the more important things quicker. With regards to the learning, when we've onboarded clients in the past, there's normally about a 20-day window where, we're teaching them how to use low code. So we provide a free academy where you can get certified in using solutions like this. And what we tend to see that it means that when, that bit of software is live, you could have people within your team, certified in 20 days, and then they can make the edits themselves. So if there's a quick fix you want to do or make a quick change to a certain feature, you've got people internally that will be able to do that. And that's something we want to drive and support. One of our big things is providing as many people training for this solution. So we offer it as part of our packages. Doesn't matter whether you're getting 1, 2, 5 applications, we'll be training up people, hopefully within procurement, as well as people within IT. Is there an annual license fee after the initial implementation and creation? Great question. So yeah, we work on a subscription model. We've got pricing for monthly, we've got pricing for yearly, which gets discounted, which were the costs I mentioned to you earlier. And we also have perpetual licenses, which is quite a popular option. So, you can then pay your one-off fee, and we would work that out with you. It'd be a discounted version of the annual costs combined. And then that's completely your application. The support remains the same. We will help train your teams up internally. We'll help with the initial build. We have got a special offer on at the moment where actually we waive the fee of the initial implementation. So that POC build at the moment, we can go through that process for you without charge. We agree a scope to meet, and then as long as we meet the scope criteria, that's when the contract begins. But yeah, other than that, it's it's an annual fee is the more common. We see people pay the annual fee for a few years and then they go for a perpetual license and own it going forward. So hopefully, anonymous attendee, that answers your question. How easy is this to use for non-procurement folks like marketers? Well, Procurement is probably the area we're seeing a lot of growth in for this solution, but also we have solutions for marketers. We've seen people create things like page builders based on modules and all sorts. So procurement, we've seen a huge spike in interest for this because, and these aren't my words, these are some of our clients' words, but you know, the software that supports procurement teams isn't always the greatest. And where that is the case, we tend to see people look for other options to help build what they're looking for, i.e. low code. Within marketing space, there are some really powerful solutions out there like the Canvas of the world and so on, but there are still specific needs. So we do see people in marketing, you know, learn how to use low code, build it themselves, or again, build a solution with us. So we've got here in private aviation, we have different procurement areas such as ground handling, catering, landing, overflying permits. These all incorporate a number of items, e.g. handling. We'll have handling charges, disbursement charges, supervision, night surcharges, many other fees. How would your application be able to deal with these, please? So I suppose in this scenario, you know, it's kind of coming back to the, you know, the custom built angle. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter how complex, you know, the procurement areas are. They could be quite simple with a lot of little manual tasks, or the actual, you know, the sourcing of, you know, costs from your suppliers could be really, really complex. Doesn't matter what they are, you know, that's the thing we'd want to scope out as part of the process to build in. So hopefully with the demo I showed you of that vendor platform, there was, you know, there were some options there which were, you know, just IT, you know, tech refreshing, number of laptops and so on. On the other hand, there were all these, there were, you know, I think there was 23 plus items that needed to be filled in by multiple suppliers. So like I say, that was built to be flexible around that. So you could add, take away, change, you know, to make it as complex or as simple as you want. We're just coming up to time now. I've engaged with a few software development firms to get something custom built. I've been put off by the lead times. How is this different? Okay, well, similar to Callum's question earlier. Yeah, we've seen the pain with software development. Now, that's not to say you wouldn't get something good out of a software development firm. You know, a lot of the time there are some really, really good firms out there that build really powerful bits of software. With the way these software things are built, though, you know, naturally they just take longer. You know, 9 to 12 months plus to take something from non-existent, you know, an idea of yourself to something that's completely real. You know, that's where we see low-code becoming a really big player in the game, because, you know, you can take something and build something really, really quickly. You can even get software developers involved on your project if you really want to take your low-code platform that you've built to the next level. There's no restrictions on that. But the main point is you can get something that's usable, functional within a few months. You know, if something like the aesthetics of your platform aren't something that's so important to you, which I know they are for some people, you know, you want to make sure you've got branding on there. But if the things are like the functionality is the important bit, that's where low code is really, really powerful. And, you know, again, as I said before, you know, get things done in a couple of months, which is fantastic. How does low code cost compare? We've touched on that, and I can definitely follow up with some comparisons after this. And it looks like that is all the questions for today. Brilliant. Well, firstly, I'd like to thank everyone who attended today for joining. Jonathan, it was my pleasure. Thank you for the nice words in the chat there. I'm glad you enjoyed it. What we'll be doing following up this call is I'll be emailing everyone who's attended the recording of the course. You've got that on file. You'll be able to get access to the presentation as well. And if you need any information on PlantSnap and how we work with organisations, again, I'll provide some information on that. So, like I say, thank you for watching, and I hope you've got something out of that webinar. Brilliant, thank you. All right, everyone, take care.